Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan Ball and welcome to another episode of the Wellness Academy podcast. On our show here at the Wellness Academy, it's my job to distill all things wellness and attempt to break down from all our different coaches, experts and guests their wisdom and knowledge so you can apply it to your own life. Today we've got Dan Tai. Dan Tai is a former professional rugby player and now he's a fitness model, an Instagram personality, a CrossFit athlete and an all-round fantastic guest that we had on the show. He talked us through his biography, his background, and lots of wonderful tips and tricks for mental wellness, physical wellness, mindset, the lot. I really hope you enjoy, and if you get a chance, give us a like, a subscribe, and check us out on wherever you find your podcasts, and of course, the YouTube channel too. Welcome to the podcast, Dan. Normally, I have no idea how to start these, but off kind of recording, we were just talking about your name and some of your origins. It has very little to do with wellness, but I think it's so interesting. Can you tell us again what you were saying about where you're from, the background of your family, and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, I can. I mean, my grandma on my dad's side might kill me if I get stuff wrong, but I'll try my best. So yeah, no, I'm Dan Tai. I'm 23, but my last name Tai actually comes from Tai Sen Choi, so it's a triple-barreled last name. It sounds really Chinese, right? And there must have been some Chinese people that's emigrated to Jamaica, so there's a Chinese colony in Jamaica. Okay. There's also some Jamaican Indians there as well, so I've got a little bit of Indian in me too, Chinese and Indian. So some of my ancestors and all family are called Singh as their last name.
Wow.
But yeah, from there, it changed to Mackenzie during the slave trade because you take the name of the slave trade owner.
So you've got descendants that were owned by slave traders?
I think so. Well,
wow.
I'd assume so. They were called Mackenzie, so they must have been, yeah. My grandma will kill me, I should know who. yeah. She'll tell me to read all the books again. Sorry, Brenda. So yeah, from there, it got changed back to Tai or Tai Sen Choi when all that stuff sort of disappeared. So here I am. I could have been a Dan Mackenzie, but I'm a Dan Tai instead. Yeah,
so is your birth certificate name Dan Tai Sen Choi, or is it Dan Tai?
It's Dan Tai, or Daniel Tai Sen Choi, with a middle name as well. But Dan Tai sounds easier.
Yeah, I found that really interesting.
Yeah,
that's
cool,
cool.
Isn't it?
So, officially then, welcome to the Wellness Academy podcast.
Thank you.
Your bio, starting back in Hong Kong, is where you were born. So again, it sounds like my family are all from the same place in the middle of England, but your family originally were from Hong Kong, went to Jamaica, but decided to go back to Hong Kong where you were born, and then you moved to England and moved to York.
Pretty much.
And originally, tell us about, basically your life sounded like to me from before revolved around rugby.
Yeah, it always has done. I think my dad, both my parents got photos of me as a little kid, and I was always I think I had like a little basketball, and I was always holding a little squidgy basketball like everywhere. And, you know, at the age of 1 and stuff. So I've always been into ball sports and stuff, and my dad used to play rugby. My mum liked rugby, so I think I started playing rugby when I was 3.
Obviously, in Hong Kong?
In Hong Kong, yeah. So I was born there, played rugby there till I was 6, 7 nearly, and I moved to England, and England was a lot colder, but I still played rugby. I used to get dressed up in the biggest sort of fluffy jackets and stuff you can imagine. But yeah, I've played my whole life. It never wanted to be a job to me or a career for me until I was probably about 13 or so. Until then, I was just doing it because it was a fun sport, and I got to meet some people and make friends, and always get like sweets and stuff afterwards when you're young, don't you? So that's why I did it.
Amazing. And so rugby's never been massively my sport personally, as much as, and I was saying to you guys when we met earlier on today, that I've tended to follow football more than rugby, but at the same time, I think the gentleman side of rugby is so much more admirable than what you can often see on a football pitch. But that being said, we talked, so you signed with Leeds Carnegie.
I did.
Which is now Yorkshire Carnegie, age 17. So tell us about them. Like, I have no idea
Yeah.
who Leeds or Yorkshire Carnegie are.
They're the best team in the world, no. Let me think. I used to play at York. That's where I moved to when I came to England. So I lived there till I was 16. And I always wanted to get involved with Leeds. Leeds, their academy side was one of the best in England. But their first team side was championship level, so not premiership, like the league below.
Okay.
But their academy system, I reckon, probably the best in England.
And this is a union or league?
This is rugby union.
Okay.
We used to beat most teams, and the setup and everything was amazing. So yeah, I wanted to play for Leeds really, really bad. And I remember one of my friends who I used to play against played for Leeds, or worked with them and did their academy stuff. And I remember asking him, saying, "How do I play for Leeds? I want to do it." And he just said, just keep going and, one day you'll do it. So that's what I worked towards. So I moved to Leeds for a sixth form in Otley when I was 16 without a rugby contract. But I was already on the radar and stuff.
Yeah.
And I did a few training sessions. But those 2 years for me were like make or break for sixth form. It was, yes, get A-levels, but I wanted to be a rugby player.
Okay. So a little bit stereotypically like what you see in America where someone might do a scholarship. So yes, they're aiming to get great school results, but really what they're doing is they want to play in the NFL or they want to play in the NBA. This was comparable?
Pretty comparable, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I sort of saw it as well. And some of the people at sixth form already had contracts. Okay. Some of us didn't. So it was a case of, you just work as hard as you can and see what happens at the end of the 2 years. And luckily, I must have had a good first year because I got offered the contract at the beginning of the next year. So when I was 17, not 18.
Okay.
So yeah, it was awesome. I remember that being like the best day of my life.
And Leeds Carnegie were a championship team?
Championship for the first team, yeah.
Wow.
And then,
so it kind of like I can kind of comparing it to football, our most local team that's I think championship level to where we live, at least where I grew up, is Derby County is still championship. They're in the championship. It'd be like being signed for Derby at 17.
Yeah, and then their academy system, as I said, is one of the best in England. So
amazing.
To be in their academy was really good. I can name players, but so many of them have gone off to do really, really good things, really big things, playing for England, all the top Premiership clubs as well. So it's a good sort of feeder, the academy. And obviously they want to keep them into the Championship squad. But sometimes these players get really good because the coaching's so good. So yeah, for me it was amazing.
And it was only 6 years ago this was?
Yeah, it seems longer, yeah. Yeah, it's 6 years ago.
Okay, and then we chatted and you moved at 20 to Rotherham Titans.
I did.
Who were also a championship rugby union team.
Yeah.
You moved to, educate me, I don't know if is that a step across? Is it a step up? Is it a step, how did that come about?
It came about basically because football coaches change and management changes and stuff, and there wasn't really room for me anymore, so I had to leave. Okay. and I chose to go to Rotherham. A few of my friends, in fact, a lot of changes went on that year, and I didn't really have a good last year at Leeds. I had a few injuries and I didn't get a chance to show what I could do. Yeah. So yeah, I moved to Rotherham, which was still a good move for me. And the idea was that I'd get more first team game time playing there. I was only 20, so I wanted to just go and play rugby. That's what I wanted to do. So I only got to spend a year there because then I wanted to move to Hong Kong, and that's when all my injuries and stuff happened, and we can cover about that.
For people who do know rugby infinitely better than the massive, even a novice is better than me at rugby in understanding it. What position did you play?
I was a winger, so basically we stand on the end and look pretty, and don't get hurt and stuff. That's what we do.
I think I remember for England, was it Jason Robinson? I remember he was in the team with Johnny Wilkinson and was phenomenal at sprinting and scored as many tries. So I can relate to.
Yeah, he was one of my idols. I got to meet him and he did a few coaching sessions with me and another guy at Leeds, which was really cool. But yeah, I wanted to be a bit like Jason Robinson because I'm not overly tall, neither was he. But he was amazing, fast, strong, powerful. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, stacked guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So so tell us about what happened to kind of end that. What was that? The original dream. So your life path was going where you wanted it to. Obviously, you're not there now in that particular area of life. But what happened to change that so drastically for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, before I start, it's not the worst sob story in the world, but it's my sob story, so I'll say it.
Yeah.
Rugby was all I wanted to do. I remember I used to watch so many videos about rugby, and I used to live and breathe it. And I was going to swap clubs, so I'd said goodbye to Rotherham, and I was going to go play for Hong Kong because I'm born there. So I was going to play for the international side over there. So I was going to move over there. You know, we would have been job sorted out, everything like that. That was the plan. That's what I wanted to do. So I'd said goodbye to Rotherham. I was waiting through for the contract on Hong Kong. Obviously, I wasn't 100% going to go, but as soon as they sent the contract over, I signed it. It would have been a done deal. And I needed a shoulder operation. So I had dislocated my shoulder when I was about 19 playing. That was my bad last year at Leeds when I didn't get a chance to show myself.
Yeah.
And turns out I needed another operation. So I said to Hong Kong, look, I'm going to need another shoulder operation here. What should I do? And they said, it's fine, get it operated on in England and then come over, do your rehab during the pre-season. You'll be fit for the season. Perfect. So I said, great. Send the contract over. I'll get my operation done in England. I had it all covered with medical insurance. Everything was sweet. And then I was just in the gym and I was doing box jumps and I snapped my Achilles and I just,
Were you rebounding these box jumps?
I was rebounding box jumps. Don't rebound box jumps, guys.
Yeah, no. Like, my CrossFit coach tells me all the time, don't rebound box jumps. And sat there thinking, oh, he's just being a overly cautious, health and safety conscious CrossFit coach. But actually rebounding box jumps, you're not the only person I know who's snapped their Achilles from doing them.
No, so I think that CrossFit changed their boxes, didn't they? From sort of softer rogue boxes, black ones, to wooden boxes.
Yeah.
And it was the same with me. I was jumping onto a grey softer box and rebounding off a hard floor. So maybe it's the two surfaces and the difference between the two surfaces. But I just remember I was doing a workout and I was rebounding and I just felt like someone had ankle tapped me or kicked me from behind. And I just heard a little, like a little explosion. Landed on top of the box. And I think the week before, David Hay had snapped his Achilles in his fight.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was that noise? So I looked behind me, no one there. And my head was like, wonder if I've done what David Hay's done. And then, turns out I had. I fully snapped it.
And obviously, so Hong Kong were willing to accept the shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
But you spoke to them about this and...
They were great. They were good. At the end of the day, I couldn't have my shoulder operation because I needed crutches. Because I couldn't walk. Okay. I couldn't have crutches because I'd be in a sling. I couldn't even use a wheelchair because I need my arms, unless I had an electric one. Yeah. So the first thing I had to do was get my Achilles sorted because I could still use my shoulder, it was okay, but I needed to learn to walk again. So I had to turn around to the medical insurance and say, look, I need to get this sorted first. And it took a lot of effort to get it covered through them because they'd already accepted the shoulder operation. So all of this was going on and I said to Hong Kong, look, Achilles is about a year. I've got the shoulder as well to do. Considering it was a year contract, I probably shouldn't.
How old were you when you did the Achilles injury?
21.
Okay, so again, like fairly recent history.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
How long did it take you to recover from the Achilles?
Less than 6 months.
Wow.
I don't know if I recovered as well as I should have done or could have done. Maybe I got a little bit excited at some stages. I think I was running after 6 or 8 weeks and like pretty fast running. Yeah. Exactly.
That sounds soon, but okay. I'm not a doctor, but anyway.
I can't explain how motivated I was.
Yeah,
but I did recover fast. I spent every single day endlessly rehabbing. I couldn't do anything else. I was sat on my sofa. I was unemployed. So my job, like people do gardens and stuff and they spend a lot of time in their garden. My job was my Achilles. So I used to massage my legs, massage my Achilles. I used Compex a lot to rehab it because I saw David Hay used it on Instagram. And I was like, if he's using it, I'm getting one.
Yeah.
So that for me was my physio. I didn't have money to spend on a physio. So I bought a Compex and that was my investment. It was my sports masseuse.
But isn't it amazing now though that with access, you've got a lot of people who have access to your knowledge, but fitness now, you benefit from a coach in a way that a lot of people can't understand. But you can find your own coach on YouTube, like just writing a few letters, right?
Yeah.
So,
there's information out there if you look for it, and that's what I had to do. So I just used the Compex for everything, really, and just every single second of every day I was working on my Achilles. It was my own little project.
Yeah.
So I tried to make it into a positive thing rather than just sitting there feeling down in the dumps.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I wanted to touch on was I've interviewed now, a handful of our coaches and some of the guests talking about positive mindset, talking about how to try and manage your own mental health as best as you can.
Yeah.
You talked to me earlier on, your dream was rugby. You feel like even with the short period of time that you got to do what you always wanted to do from a young age, you said to me, no, I achieved my goal. You didn't sit to me earlier on and go, I tried and failed to achieve my goal, which is one thing that's amazing in itself.
Yeah.
But you would achieve what you wanted to do. You were figuring out a path. I'm sure Hong Kong would have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
How did it, looking back,
right,
the short period of time, a couple of years, is there anything that you can pinpoint now that helped you get through that?
Yeah, there's a few things. So when I say I achieved my goal was to be a professional rugby player, but the bigger goal was to be the best winger in the world and to be famous and stuff like that for rugby. So I achieved some of my goal. But I just remember sat on my sofa. You're not allowed to move for 2 weeks after you've had an Achilles operation. So
not allowed to move? No,
because blood clots and stuff like that. So I had to take injections for blood clots to make sure it didn't get blood clots, but it's to make sure an infection doesn't get spread.
Yeah.
So you have to just sit there. So I sat on my sofa for 2 weeks without a job. I couldn't do anything, and I've never been depressed, but I think I was probably quite close there because everything was just nothingness. I didn't really have a time of the day because I just slept whenever I wanted, and I just didn't really know what to do with my life because I wanted to get back to rugby really, but it seemed like a long way away. So for me, that was the tough part, and getting out of that, as soon as I could do a bit more with my actual leg, once it was out of the pot and I could move, that gave me so much more direction. It didn't really matter where the end goal was. It was the fact that I could take it day by day, celebrate the little victories. So I used to film everything, and that's what I started my social media for.
Yeah.
Just to show people that I'm not out of the game yet, and look, I can wiggle my big toe, and stupid stuff. Stupid stuff that people probably didn't even care about. But to me, every day I could celebrate something and be like, yes, I've done that. That's probably why I recovered so fast, because I loved the process of getting better. And in the professional sports world, you see people go through, one of my friends had 6 or 7 shoulder operations, and he's my age.
Wow.
Yeah, and you just see the fact that they keep coming back and coming back and coming back, and it's never a case of, I'm sorry that you've hurt yourself, this must be really bad. When you see people in the physio rooms in rugby, it's always, okay, so when are you back? And in my head, that was the same for me. It was, right, so when am I back?
Yeah.
It was never, oh dear, my life's over. A few times there was, but the rest of it, as soon as I could do something, it was, let's get back. So I enjoyed the recovery process. That was fun.
Okay.
It was a challenge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good way to look at it.
Different, right?
So, given, like you say, that you, for a long period of time, the goal was to get back to rugby.
It was.
For anybody listening who either might not know you very well, or people that do know you, the people that do know you obviously don't play rugby.
Yeah.
People that don't know you, they now know you don't play rugby.
Yeah.
When did you make the decision then to not try and contact Hong Kong or whoever it would have been?
Yeah. I've still contacted Hong Kong. I still want to play rugby.
Oh, okay.
I don't know when I will or if I will, but for me, funny story actually. So I recovered from both. So I had my shoulder operation in about September time. So March was when I snapped my Achilles and had my operation. To September, I was walking and stuff, so I'd booked in through the NHS. It took me ages to get in for my shoulder operation. I was on them every single day. But I luckily got my operation done through the NHS with the surgeon that I was going to have it with previously. That took a lot of effort.
Okay.
Anyway, so that was September. By about May, June time the next year...
This can't have been long ago then.
No, it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I was fit, so I was, 22, yeah. I was super fit. And I was ready to go back and play rugby, so I contacted a sevens team, rugby sevens, which is 7 people rather than 15. And I wanted to play with them, so I went down to Cambridge and played a tournament with them. And in my mind, I was back. It was going to be my little introduction into rugby again. And I did really well. I felt fit. It felt like I hadn't missed it at all. It felt like it was, the next day after everything. And I was shaking people's hands after the game, and my wrist felt a bit sore. I drove back from Cambridge and I couldn't twist my key out of the car to get it out of the ignition when I got home. So I went home, tried to play some video games and couldn't move my thumb. And I was like, oh no. So I went to hospital and I'd broken my scaphoid. So my first time back, I broke my scaphoid.
Okay.
And it was then when I was like, right, Dan, don't rush back into rugby again.
Okay.
That
cool.
was a bit of a moment for me.
Yeah, but so again, thinking about that, what I know about you is I know you're a PT.
Yeah.
I think you PT at your local gym.
Yeah, I PT at a couple of gyms. Yeah, in Leeds.
You're a fitness model. You've recently, we were discussing earlier on, you appeared in Attitude magazine.
Yeah.
I know from the short period of time that I've been following you since we met at Body Power in May. You seem to forever be doing a photo shoot or a video shoot or something.
Yeah.
You're not sitting, waiting around, doing nothing with your life to maybe do rugby or whatever the goal is.
No.
You have an unbelievable following on Instagram.
Thank you.
You try and spread the positive message to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
How has that come about? Talk to us about that.
So I started the social media to track my Achilles recovery, and then I kept it going to track my shoulder recovery. And then I was back playing rugby, then I used it again to track my wrist recovery. So that's how it started. I had a lot of talking points, and it was fun for me because it was good for me to sort of get out my feelings and put it somewhere and say things like, you know what, this really sucks, and it does suck, but I want to make the best out of it. And I just write all these captions, not necessarily for everyone else, but for myself, just to sort of make me feel better, really. Use it as a diary. I don't write, so I like phones and stuff instead.
Okay.
So that's where it started. And I said I was laid on my sofa with the Achilles and I had no job. I got turned down from being a night porter. I applied to every single job I could on Indeed. Got turned down from working at a corner shop, everything. And maybe my CV was terrible. Anyway, I was sat on my sofa thinking, I need to figure out a way I can make money. What if rugby doesn't work? And it hasn't worked at the moment. I need to figure out a way I can make money. So I remember Googling best ways to make money at home, best ways to make money with a computer and stuff. And
okay.
There were loads of weird ones, but I think subconsciously the social media route for me stuck with me because I kept doing it. So I just kept doing that. And when I went to visit my dad in Sri Lanka. My dad works in Sri Lanka, which is really cool.
Wow, okay.
Manages luxury, amazing villas, and I get to go and stay and do incredible things. I'm very lucky. So when I went there, I just took lots of photos of me on holiday. And that was one of the main things that sort of propelled my social media. Okay. And before that, I want to do everything. I'm competitive and I want to be successful in something, and probably everything. So I used to have a book, actually. It was called How to Be the Best at Everything. And I'm not even joking. I was about 10 and I used to read it. And one of them was how to fly a helicopter. And I remember reading that okay, I know how to fly a helicopter.
That'll be on the agenda.
It's on the agenda. Yeah. So I like being good at stuff, and social media, I wanted to do well at it. It was never, once I realised I could try and pursue it, it was never just a hobby. It's more of a business, and I see it as almost like a video game. Like I want to be the best at it. I want to be good at it. Or a sport, I want to be good at it. So I really worked hard at it, and I say yes to opportunities and go meet people like you guys and do photo shoots when I can, put myself out there. And
that's cool.
I'm pretty crazy with stuff like that. I just find the opportunities.
Sounds a bit like Yes Man.
A little bit, yeah.
Jim Carrey film.
Literally, yeah.
So one of the things I was really interested to ask you about was, so there's a big difference between, well, I imagine there's a big difference between the way that you used to take care of yourself from a physical perspective and all of the things that are involved in that, from the Dan Tai that was 16, leaving secondary school and aiming to do sixth form, but really doing sixth form to pursue the Leeds Carnegie route. Yeah. Then the Dan Tai that moved to Rotherham Titans, was it a championship level team? Yeah. I'm assuming, like you said, you'd had coaches, you'd probably had a nutritionist.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. So you're being told what to do there, trying to learn as much as you can. Yeah. To then being injured Dan Tai and having to go, well, how do I best take care of myself then, like in that area,
Yeah.
to then now you're kind of a quote unquote civilian rather than a professional sportsman, although I'm sure you don't look at it that way. But I'm curious if you take care of yourself differently now. So like from a physical perspective, imagine you're going to coach someone.
Yeah.
With the wealth of knowledge that you've got through your career up to now, what things have you learned that have helped you take care of yourself? Minus the shoulder surgery, the Achilles and the thumb.
No, it was my wrist, scaphoids.
Oh, okay.
It stopped my thumb from working. And that took a long time to get better. And anyway, the things I've learned physically, so you were right, I spent a lot of time learning stuff when all these seminars and stuff, because I never had a contract rugby until I was 17, I didn't take anything for granted. You know, I made sure every single seminar, we did public speaking seminars, we did mindset seminars, nutrition, everything. And I just remember just trying to be the most professional person I could, and I'd sit there with my notepad. We all had to bring notepads, we made notes. And I made sure I was learning as much as I could and taking on stuff, because I never took the rugby for granted. I knew it might not be there, and I knew I had to take as much out of it as I could. So with all my injuries and stuff, when I was sat in the physio room and someone else had a previous injury before me, I just talked to physio and just learn stuff and figure out what was wrong with my friend's knee, you know, what is an MCL and stuff like that, and what recovery do they have to do? Why is it different to mine? Everything like that. They probably got fed up of me for asking so many questions. But the same with the conditioning side of it. I wanted to know why we were doing this interval training and why we were doing it before training and everything like that. So I just asked questions, really. And from there, things that I learnt, there's all sorts, really, but...
Is it what sticks with you, though? So, like, because obviously I know from following you, you do a lot of CrossFit now.
Yeah.
We met because you nearly stacked a 90-kilo barbell onto me because I was sat too close to you doing a snatch lift off with some guys at Body Power.
Yeah.
You were at Battle for Middle Ground at the competition, so I was judging there for a while. You were competing, I believe.
I was.
So I know you're massively into your training, and you obviously eat a lot of calories to fuel that training. But let's say someone's not just going to do CrossFit.
Yeah.
What things stick with you? Is there anything that sticks with you from your rugby training days that you've carried into now?
Physically, I'm not too sure, but mainly it's just the mindset, just athlete mindset. Go to sleep. I'm not the best at that at the moment, but sleep as much as you can. I do have my naps and stuff.
There's a sleep guide on Wellness Academy.
Yeah?
Yeah, we'll get you that before you go to there.
Sort me out with that. So yeah, sleep well, eat well, recover well. Recovery, I think, is really important, and there's mental recovery as well as physical recovery. Personally, for me, mental recovery is more important because for me, I don't know, I feel a lot better when I feel fresh in my body.
How do you mentally recover?
Downtime for me.
Okay.
I like piano music.
Okay.
I play piano as well. I do all sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah, I like listening to piano music. I like listening to relaxing music. I've always played video games since I was a kid, and I always wanted to be the best at those. But
have you seen there's a guy now who's a professional video gamer who's been signed by Adidas?
No, is there?
Yeah, I saw it on an Instagram account today.
I'm not
It's
surprised.
the first guy of his kind to be signed.
It's incredible.
I know. There's another thing for you.
So one of my roots was to be a professional gamer, but it never happened. So yeah, I sometimes I like watching video games now rather than playing them, because for me that's a bit more relaxing.
Okay.
And yeah, just sleeping, recovering, just making sure that your head feels nice and clear. So recovery for me was important. And if someone's starting training and exercising, I'd say don't go full steam ahead at the start, because you'll probably just drop off at some point. I'd say set realistic goals. So if it's 2 times a week you can actually go to train, fine, go 2 times a week. And if you go 2 times a week, make sure you're enjoying those 2 sessions. So because it's been an athlete mindset for me, I enjoy training as well, but it's also like a lifestyle, like it's what I know. I'd feel lost without it. It's a case of go, get the job done, leave, because rugby was a job.
How long is it like a typical training session for you?
Depends. I train at CrossFit Barnsley at the moment, so we do a couple of sessions a day. One session's normally about half an hour or so.
Yeah.
The other one can vary, normally about 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
But we do have little breaks in between and
are
stuff
you
like that.
are you stretching a lot? Are you do you mobilise and foam roll and focus on your mobility as well? Is that part of your recovery?
Yeah, I do that. I need to do it so much more, but I don't think you can do enough of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many sort of things I want to work on. So my ankle flexion, my wrist, my shoulder still, but there's also my lower back, my hips. Things are out of line a little bit. I know that. My grip strength is shocking. The list goes on and on and on about that sort of stuff. And I like that though. It's sort of endless.
Because you had a back injury as well.
Yeah, I think
Not long ago.
I think I slipped the disc, or either that or fractured my SI joint. Deadlifting.
Think?
Yeah, it hurt. I know that much. I was deadlifting with a guy called Zach George, a really good CrossFitter, and I just felt something in my back, like an electric shock sort of feeling, and tried to walk it off, and I really couldn't walk it off. I was pretty much bedbound. I couldn't walk. It took me maybe about 5 or 6 hours to get home from Birmingham to Leeds, because I had to pull over at every service station and pretty much fall out of my car and wait until the spasm went away to slowly stand myself up, and then sort of wiggle around and then sit back in my car.
And how has that changed your training recently to try and...
It's actually, injuries for me seem to give me a little bit of a kick up the backside, because they always happen from something, whether it's bad form or whether it's some sort of ongoing issue that you've never really assessed.
Yeah.
So for me, doing it was bad, but it made me realise, okay, I'm deadlifting using a mixed grip here. I've had injuries all down my right side of my body.
Which, incidentally, which side did you always like to tackle with?
Good question, actually. My left. My
Because
left side.
there were like 100% there'll be something there.
Yeah, I know everyone's got their imbalances, and I know mine. So when I did my back, I was like, right, I need to sort of sort out my hip alignment a little bit more. I need to make sure I'm not compensating. I need to make sure I'm putting enough force through my right leg, because after you sever your Achilles tendon, there must be some sort of neurological issues there with applying pressure through it.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, and it's been quite fun for me to sort of get back on board with that again.
Sounds like you're pretty good at self-awareness.
I think so. I've had a fair few injuries and I like to sort of work through them. But yeah, I don't do as much recovery and rehab as I should do, but let's be honest, who does enough?
Yeah.
It's a big word.
Yeah, definitely. So getting back to the idea of where you're at now, the physical side of things and the mental side of things, the recovery side of things.
Yeah.
One of the things that you and I talked a bit about before sitting down today was you're really passionate about a positive mindset.
Yeah.
So what things do you value? Are there any particular tips or tricks or tactics that crop up often? Talk to us about that.
So my mum was a hypnotherapist. So when I was a kid, like one example, when I used to get nightmares when I was really small, she used to make an imaginary bubble around me, and it meant that no like bad dreams could come and touch me and stuff. And I've always been around the sort of positive mindset and attitude. And I remember when we were younger, we'd drive to the designer outlet in York, and she'd find a perfect parking spot, and she'd go, I asked for that. And I said, no, you didn't, Mum. You didn't ask for it. She said, yes, I asked the universe to give me a nice parking space, and they did.
That's on the law of attraction, if you
It is indeed.
Yeah, The Secret.
Yeah, The Secret. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. So it's all about, emitting positive energy and positive vibes, and it comes back to you.
Yeah.
I always forget the name of the Japanese doctor. Have you seen the research where he puts different labels on bottles of water or cups of water? So he puts different labels on. This is really interesting. I've forgotten his name. My mum will kill me.
So sorry, Gran, and sorry, Mum, today.
Yeah, so far. So like love is written on one of them, and then hate and disgust is written on different ones. And they look at the molecules in the water, and it's a real study, and the molecules that have all these positive messages on are really pretty, look like snowflakes and stuff like that. And you look at the other molecules, and they're all messy and stuff. And whether that's true or not, I like to believe it, because why would you not want to believe that sort of stuff? Let's be honest.
That's a really, really good point for people that can sometimes... So you talk about the law of attraction. There's some really interesting aspects of The Secret. I watched the film, and I've read the book. I watched the film.
Yeah.
And then there's a lady on there called, I believe her name is Rhonda. But I often remember her as Abraham Hicks. Have you heard of Abraham Hicks?
I think so.
So Abraham Hicks is the lady that is on one of the ladies on The Secret. It's something that she does, and the secret's a really controversial thing depending upon who you talk to, isn't it? That
Yeah.
you attract into your life what you have.
Yeah.
Either for good, for better or for worse. But
Yeah.
I think that from my point of view, one thing I'll often say is, if you choose to believe that the way you think, the way you speak, the way that your emotions are on a regular basis, if you choose to believe that they attract into your life good things,
Yeah.
you're giving yourself some level of responsibility and power. I agree. I don't see how that can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Why not choose to believe that you can make a positive difference? Why not choose to believe that you're responsible, therefore you can make a change, rather than believing, well, doesn't matter what I do, this always happens to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, you're totally right. And I also think that, whatever happens in life, it's how you react to it. So if this always happens to you, there must be a positive somewhere. And the way I see it, my mum used to do hypnotherapy and she told me how much she charged, I remember, and I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money. I wouldn't do that because it wouldn't work for me. And she just said, well, if you don't want it to work, it won't work. And when you're younger, you think that's a bit of a stupid reason. But the older you get and the more experience you get in life, you think, as I said, why not? Placebos are scientifically proven to work in some studies. So why can we not? Well, we are doing it with our mind there. So why can't we just sort
Well,
of...
you do it whether you realise it or not, right?
Yeah, of course you do.
can either take positive charge in control of it, or it happens to you.
Yeah.
Speaking of if you don't want something to work, it won't. I don't know if you've heard the story that Tony Robbins, with his personal clients, would charge upfront. It would be $1 million.
Wow.
And then when you get to his private island in Fiji, the first thing he would sit down and say to you is, I don't think you're right for this. So you've paid him $1 million, you've travelled to Fiji, and he would say, I don't think you're right for this.
Yeah.
To make you really show that you want to change.
Yeah.
And that's step one, isn't it?
I quite like that, yeah. So, yeah, in terms of actual tips and stuff, for me, positive mental attitude goes a long way. Just in relationships as well. If you're a nice, happy person, you can see that sort of resonates and you do get it back to you. If you smile at someone, you're not just going to get frowns back for the whole of your life, let's be honest. But if you do frown at people, you're not really going to get many smiles back. Yeah. So I think of it as that, as a basic level with interactions with people. And then obviously there is a wider theme going on there with the positive attitude. So that's one thing. Another thing, big one for me, is visualization and positive self-talk.
Okay.
So with rugby, I was never the most confident player of my abilities sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I just overthought situations. I felt confident, but sometimes I wasn't on the pitch. And what helped me a lot was visualization. So imagining that you're going to score this amazing try, you're going to run around people. So that really helped me a lot. And you can use that in every single daily activity. So I could have visualized here. I should have visualized that I'm going to come and smash the podcast. Stuff like that. And just make sure that you don't stutter or whatever works. And positive self-talk as well, I think, is a big one. Because if you don't believe in yourself, you're really going to struggle.
Yeah.
And I know people go through times where they don't believe in themselves and they doubt themselves and they need support from others. But all in all, if you can keep feeding yourself messages like, I am a really good person, or whatever it is, I am strong, I am fast if you want to win a race, whatever it is, I think that's really important. And I've experimented with cards around the house that say positive things and Post-its and all sorts of crazy
Do you still have
things.
any of them now?
No, but I do often just sit there and just talk to myself, which sounds a bit weird.
No, you say it sounds weird, but everybody does it.
Yeah.
There's varying degrees of how out loud people talk to themselves, but we all talk to ourselves whether we realise it or not. And speaking of being positive and believing in yourself, I know that one of the things that you've looked into recently, tell me about what your latest project is.
Oh, what's my latest project? I've got a few going on.
So the one I know of is the online coaching. You're looking to do your own programming, etc., right?
Right, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So I wanted to create a platform where people could ask me the questions that I get on social media all the time. Dan, I've trained for this long. I want to do this. I want to do that. And rather than me message every single person individually, which I'd love to do, but sometimes it does get quite overwhelming. Social media is vast and you can get a lot of messages. So a way I thought I could streamline everything and still give people the care that they deserve is by making a platform on the internet and a website where it's all personalised for them. So we've created a platform, me and my friend Elliot, where people can put in what they want to achieve, what access to a gym they've got, everything like that, their age, their experience and everything. And it formulates them a program, so that way they can get what they want, and I don't have to send people a million messages to try and get there. So the website is actually live right now.
Well then, what is it?
dtpt.co.uk. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And you go on and you can literally customize your own program. The website is super sleek, super nice, easy to use. And I'm really proud I've done that, because that's the sort of thing I want to keep with me and develop for the rest of my life. Maybe in 20 years' time it turns into more of a self-help website, I don't know. But at the moment it's training programs, and I want to help people get results. Cool.
Yeah, amazing. And one of the things that I also wanted to ask you about, because I know that for me this is something that's important, either you have a positive one or a negative one, and you choose which to have, and I'm talking about kind of morning and evening routines. So one of the things that I've looked into quite a lot personally myself recently is how to set myself up for a decent night's sleep.
Nice.
Like my training has been kind of like yours, but I always have, touch wood, right? So speaking of self-talk, saying I always have a niggle is interesting. Have found myself often in the past to suffer from a niggle of sorts.
Better choice of words.
Yeah, definitely. But it's trying to set myself up for success in terms of, like you said, recovery. Do you have anything like that? Like evening routine, morning routine?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My evening routine always ends up with me falling asleep watching some sort of relaxing I watch lots of stuff on my phone, but for some reason it just sends me to sleep. But before
it works.
It works really well. But before then, I always reflect on a day and on my life most evenings. So I normally just sit there, give myself a few minutes and just reflect on what's happened today, reflect on where I am at this sort of time in my life, reflect on the stuff I've done well today, always the stuff I've done well. And I always pick on a few things that I need to do the next day, and I just leave it at that.
There's a really good thing I think you'd really enjoy. It's called the 5-minute journal. Have you heard of it?
I think I actually have. I think
if you haven't got one, check it out on Amazon.
I've heard about it.
The 5-minute journal originated. So I know that I was talking to your girlfriend Emma earlier.
Yeah.
I think you're a Tim Ferriss fan.
He mentions the 5. Yeah, he mentions
it. The 5-minute journal came from someone who read the 4-Hour Workweek.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he mentions it in some of his podcasts.
And it's amazing. So I think I believe I bought mine on Amazon. And it was inexpensive, and it's beautifully presented. But you're already doing what it does in that, but it would give you a way to write it down and to record it and to reflect on it and stuff, which I think you'd really enjoy. So check that out.
I need to check it out. I remember watching the podcast where he said to get one, and I've always meant to get one, but I haven't got one yet. But yeah, I like reflecting on an evening, and it seems to relax me a little bit because my head goes at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I never got diagnosed with ADHD or anything, but I think I was close when I was younger. So my brain goes very fast, and for me to sort of slow it down does take a bit of effort, and I have to pop things out of my head, otherwise they'll just be running around my head and I'll wake up every hour thinking about it. So yeah, a big thing for me is just to really try and shut down, and yeah, that's what I do every evening.
Amazing. And in the morning, is there anything that stands out that you do regularly that you think positively impacts the day you have, or?
Yeah, I think if you set yourself, lots of people say this, Tim Ferriss is probably one of them, where if you set yourself a few small tasks every morning to do and you complete them, then you're going to feel some sort of self-accomplishment, and that's a great way to start the day. One really big thing that I take pride in, which might sound stupid, is having breakfast and making sure it's a tasty breakfast. So I like eggs on toast. And as stupid as it sounds, I have it nearly every day, but I love it every single day, and I make sure that I'm aware of the fact that I love it. I think it's great. And I know that I've set myself up for the day that way. So it's not just having breakfast because it's good for you. It's having breakfast and making a bit of a thing out of it and enjoying it that way. And I also try and drink water every morning. So it used to be a pint of water. Now I'll do 2 half pints because I'm not as hardcore as I used to be. But
that's hard.
I know that that's good for you and it flushes out everything and gets the body working. But once again, it's not necessarily the physical benefits I'm bothered about there. It's the fact that I do that as a routine, and it makes me feel like, right, I've conquered this morning already, and I'm ready to get going.
An interesting one I know that has been talked about by a lot of people before is, did you listen, do you remember the dude Stanley McChrystal that was on the Tim Ferriss show?
No, I don't think so.
So check it out. He's I think a former army general, but his thing is making your bed. But he makes his bed for the same reason that you talked about having the one. Yeah, it's like, because at the end of the day, you always know that you did something, you made your bed.
I have listened to that one, actually.
It's interesting to think about how when you were a kid, I don't know about you, but I remember when I was always told to make my bed.
Yeah.
The fact that my mum and dad made it such a chore, I didn't enjoy making it. You don't make your bed, do you, Dan?
Sometimes. I know, I've watched that exact podcast. It's like, I'll make my bed.
But I think he talks about doing it for the same reason that you're drinking 2.5 pints of water and that you're having eggs on toast. So you might not be making your bed, but I think you're covering the same bases.
And my herbal tea.
Okay.
Herbal tea as well. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Yeah, I prefer food and drink rather than making beds, I'll be honest. But it's each to their own, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not the recipe to success is making your own bed. It's, as you said, it's the underlying premise behind
100%. It. So one of the things that I keep trying to do with our podcast here at the Wellness Academy so far as well is that to kind of tie things together, to give people at home things that hopefully they can do, which I think you've done amazingly well at today.
Thank you.
Already. Is there anything you haven't talked about that is really important to you regarding like your physical wellness? So, like, obviously your physical wellness is paramount.
Thank you.
You wouldn't be training like you do, you wouldn't be putting in the effort that you do, etc., etc. But is there anything you've not said that you think would be worth mentioning, or do you think you've covered it all from a physical perspective?
Physical perspective, I think a big thing is just to really try and challenge yourself and celebrate the little victories. So I know I've watched so many cool movies and documentaries and podcasts about how people have survived doing incredible things, and the human body is amazing and it can always do more than you think it can.
Yeah. So
big thing for me is remembering that your body is incredible. It's super strong. It's super smart. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And you can obviously, under the right circumstances, work very hard and get incredible results if you apply yourself and realise that your body is this engine and this tool that you can make work for you, basically. So that's a little physical tip, I guess, is just that your body is stronger than you think.
Do you find yourself having to be to remind yourself of that in the middle of a tough workout and these long sessions that you do at CrossFit, etc.? And I'm guessing that crops up in your mind often. Yeah,
one thing I always remember, I don't know why, is someone was in a car crash and they bent the steering wheel backwards and stuff. And like, how can you do that? Imagine trying to bend your steering wheel. Like, if I told you to go outside now,
it's not happening.
It wouldn't happen. Me neither. But the body's incredible, and that's obviously because of the adrenaline surge and stuff like that. So yeah, I like the feeling where things suck, because I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do something a bit superhuman here. And not to the same extent, but I feel like when you get into that pain cave and it's hard to get there, that's when you're going to do something incredible or get yourself psyched up for a 1 rep max. You have to get yourself really psyched up, and sometimes, you'll outlift whatever you think you can do if you're in that sort of mindset. And as I said, the body can do it.
Yeah, definitely. And mental wellness, we've touched on a lot. I guess I have to ask the same thing. Is there anything you think you've not said?
I can give you something extra as a little idea. I think, my biggest thing was the comeback's always bigger than the setback. I used to say that quite a lot, and I've got a new hashtag going as well called Get It Done. So whatever you're doing, get it done, whether it's the bins and stuff or whether it's fitness, get it done. But the comeback bigger than the setback is important for me, where, it's always got to be 2 steps forward, one step backwards sometimes, and always sometimes. Anyway, it's always got to be 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards in life. And when you take that step backwards, you have to know that the next step for you has to be forwards. And I like to apply that. So, if you have a few setbacks in a row, that could still be part of the same step backwards. It just means that you're going to make 2 really big steps forwards. And I like to try and accept that. So when bad things happen, it's like, okay, now is my time to try and look for the good stuff and try and work for the good stuff. And when one door shuts, another door opens. Yeah, I agree with that. But you've got to go and find that door. So these opportunities are waiting for you, and you have to learn from your mistakes and whatever's happened and go and find that open door. So
I think an interesting one with that's a similar principle. I remember being taught the idea that if you think about, you spend a lot of time in London, think about the River Thames, right? The River Thames is a phenomenal, a thing of nature, but it doesn't go in a straight line.
Yeah.
it makes it from A to B, but it doesn't do that in a straight line. It often comes back on itself.
Yeah.
And often sometimes to come back, like you say, taking a step back is there to propel you in the direction that you want to. You know, your direction does not have to be a straight line. Your direction to where you are hasn't been a straight line.
Not yet, no.
But it's still heading in a direction that you want it to, isn't it? Because you're doing your best to take control of that. The last question I always ask people is important to highlight that balance is important. So I'm sure from your point of view, the life of an athlete is very sport centric, and that's still clearly how you look at yourself.
Yeah.
What do you do to try and retain some level of balance and overall wellness, do you think?
So I think I see it as an athlete, and I think the best athletes obviously achieve some really good balance as well. Whether their balance, you know, might be seeing loved ones 1 hour a week or whatever it is, that in their mind, that's their level of balance, if that makes sense. Everyone's got different levels of balance. But yeah, for me, balance is everything, and being an athlete is everything. So it means spending time with loved ones. It means, you know, sometimes enjoying some food and making the most out of it. So I think, balance is massive. And it's just knowing that balance doesn't necessarily mean you eat one healthy meal, you have one bad meal. That's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It doesn't work like that. But everyone's different, and you've got to sort of work towards your level of balance. And when you're happy with it, so if you're happy seeing someone that you care about 1 hour a week, I know I wouldn't be. If you're happy
really
with
value
that,
family time, right?
I love family time. I spend a lot of time with my family, so it's not 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
But my point is, once you're happy with your level and you think that's acceptable, then that's your level of balance, and you have to make sure you strive for that. So I spend a lot of time with family and loved ones, and I think it's very important, because blood's thicker than water. You only get one family. You wouldn't be here without them. Yeah, I'm so grateful for my family.
That's cool, man. So tell anybody listening where they can find you. You've already mentioned dtpt.co.uk for the new programme. But where else? Where do you spend most of your time? We talked about Instagram. What's the Instagram? Where can people find you if they want to check you out?
Yeah, so my Instagram is dantai.pt. So it's pretty similar.
Spell that for us.
DANTAI, full stop, PT.
Yeah.
And the YouTube is the same thing without the full stop. So DANTAIPT. I'm trying to do more regular vlogs on there. So if you want to hear me rant more, you can go look at that. I'm not sure many people will want to do that. But
I'm sure they've had to check you out at the amazing villas in Sri Lanka though. So
yeah, you get to see cool travel content on there and workouts
good.
And stuff. So there is that as well.
Amazing. Yeah, Dan, thanks so much for being here. We will find an excuse to get you back on again, I reckon. I hope you had a great time, and thanks for being here with us.
Anytime. Pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
This is Dan Ball from Wellness Academy. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. You'll find a link on the episode notes. Just tap or swipe over the cover art. You'll also see some offers from our sponsor, Lichfield Apart Hotel. Find them at lichfieldaparthotel.com, and we hope you'll support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe. Another way to support us is to answer a short survey at yourwellnessacademy.co.uk/survey and tell us what wellness topics you'd like to hear about. I'm your host, Dan Ball. Our producer is Scott Towns, created by our executive producer, Ben Heathcote, for Wellness Academy.